hello and welcome back to Fate Hollow Ataraxia. Last time we talked to Archer about his perspective on stuff, and he does seem to be very explicitly getting to a point where he's, noticing everything too, which means I think a lot of the servants are noticing that shit's repeating at this point. So, yeah. No signs of people in the plaza. The House of God stands quiet, no visitors in sight. Not sure how long this will take. The last time took quite a while, so might as well make sure I do this before I move on to anything else. This place stands far away from the world, further still from the heaven. A place of confession for the lost, a girl unknown to me is waiting. Okay, I feel like I went through this part before. She's everywhere and nowhere, just like him. Flow of time is relevant here. Second time. I start walking towards the church. Of course, I don't really have any business here. I got all the information I needed last time. It's obvious that this woman's still hiding something from me, but I don't think she'll tell me anything more than she did last time. Her help isn't needed to resolve this incident. True, I have no reason to be here, and I don't really remember anything triggering a need for me to come here either. Or even a desire. In the stuff that I've done, I place my hand on the door while grumbling. They're both good premonitions and bad ones. Without a doubt, the sudden urge to come here isn't going to be a good one for, quote, me, end quote. The hymn continues. I take a seat and wait for the end of the long reminiscence. Close guard in the overlapping finger that scored at noise, old bitter dreams, and weak malice. It's a story from not long ago. The priest that was here 6 months ago would rend open the hearts of people with his words and actions. His methods were indirect and coercive. He would seize an opening to trample upon their deep wounds. That woman is the same as the priest. Her methods differ, but this music deprives people of their affections as well. It's somehow unsettling. This is most likely an incredible performance, but I can't bring myself to embrace it. I'm not a big fan of the instrument, so incredible performance or not, I'm not caring for it personally. Alone in untrodden land, counting the breeze. This place far away, deeper than everything in empty sky. It says, rest your mind and let yourself stop moving forward. Is that like lyrics or something? It says, take a break. If you are tired, you should rest your wings here. That kind of talk is irresponsible. Telling someone to rest when they don't have the power to stand in the first place is like telling them to end it altogether. You must not stop. You must not seek rest. Once you start it, you must fill the cup to the brim. Abundantly decorated, continuing on in circles to fill up the abyss of slumber before the end, the built temple. Her performance was over before I knew it. I breathed a sigh of relief once I no longer have to listen to that unbearable piece. And before I knew it, that woman was standing right in front of me.
Yeah,
lying like butter. I lift my head and without standing begin to applaud. Sarcastically. Apparently my blatant flattery paid off as Karen nods satisfied. Really, she looked pretty perturbed to me. You could tell. And brazenly complains under her breath. Judging by your reaction, she must find it meaningless to even answer. Well then, This silence is a bit awkward. So I had a thought before, and it was sort of out there at the time, that the priest could be related to Angra Mainyu in some capacity. Now, I know he's supposed to be the soul that was basically blamed as Angra Mainyu, but given all the wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like have that person be someone who was not displaced from time, but like the closest thing in the world or something like that to how they characterized it or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised. The fact that I feel like I'm getting more possessed when I come here feels like it might support that. I suppose that's really what made me think. It feels like my demeanor definitely changes here, and we can sort of chalk that up to the whole, like, priest thing previously, but at the same time, he does, when I'm really thinking about it and considering it as a possibility, he does feel like he's acting more like Angra Mainyu whenever we're, you know, here, talking with her. Somehow, time goes by. I didn't care about talking with her in the first place, so I'm completely okay, even with this unpleasant silence. I settle into my seat and squint towards the sun rays beaming through the skylights.
確認するのですが、あなたは私をもう用済みだと言いませんでしたか？
言ったけど、ここは教会だろ。用がなきゃ来ちゃいけないっていうのか？
You also said that you hated it here, so I immediately respond to her unspirited question.
そうですね。訪れる者が迷いを抱えているのなら拒めます。もっとも、あなたは子羊には程遠いですが。
辛辣だな。けど何も言い返せないな。懺悔したいことは見当たらないんで、やっぱりあんたに用はないや。
では、私との接点はありませんね。
Our conversation ends on that note. The church fills with silence once again. She ought to understand my stance here, and yet Karen stands unmoving in front of me. We haven't got any business with each other, so she could just leave me here alone and go back to her room.
他に話はないのですか？
だからないって。
This is annoying. If we can talk about something, she'll be standing here like this forever.
わかった。じゃああんたの話。はじゃなくてさ、こっちから話すことはないんだから、そっちが話すしかないんじゃない？俺、ネタはないけど、あんたの話なら聞くよ。
なるほど。それはもっともです。ですが、話すと言っても、
なんでもいいよ。話題がないときは、自分の素性とか趣味とかネタにするといい。自分が何者かを示すのは会話の基本。だぜ。
Unless you like weird visual novels and stuff like that, that doesn't make for the best icebreaker. I can say from some experience. It is the sort of thing you skirt around.
それはそうですが。
I like story-driven games, which isn't wrong either. And that's my main motivation for even liking these in the first place, so...
そのようなことで、あなたはいいのですか？
いい。話してくれるなら聞く。
I'm not really interested, but if this one wants to talk, I can't stop her. Besides, no matter what kind of talk it is, it'll probably be entertaining as long as it's something I don't already know.
わかりました。あなたには必要のない話とは思いますが、これも何か意味があることかもしれません。
After that, Karen goes silent for a short while. Probably because she isn't used to talking about her own history. She seems to enter a deep meditation while trying to recall her past in silence. In the end, it was a predictably tedious tale. She was born in a country in southern Europe and lost her parents soon after. Her father was known to be unknown to begin with. Her mother had a weak constitution and died 1 year after her birth. Official records state that she was killed by a robber, but in reality, she seemed to have taken her own life. The church treats suicide as a transgression of the Lord's teachings. It's not a mortal sin, but those who have taken their own lives will never pass through the gates of heaven and will suffer eternal torment in purgatory. It's actually a good story. Her mother was a devout believer that, in the final moments of a painful life, found a purpose great enough to rebel against the Lord. However, that purpose her mother found was meaningless to a small child. No matter how wonderful the meaning she found was for her, it didn't change the fact that she turned against the teachings of the Lord and left her child behind. Nobody was left to care for the child. The child was also 1 year old, right? So, her mother had no relatives and her father didn't come forward. The prevailing opinion among the people was that her terminally ill mother had birthed the child from an unknown man like a harlot. With no relatives, the child was entrusted to the priest of a small church. Her mother was a believer that took her own life. Her child was placed in the hands of an exemplary devout priest who looked with contempt upon the woman who had premarital sex with a passing stranger. Fantastic. What happened to the father again? He just left? Unknown to begin with. Oh, okay. So it just could be some random person from the town who didn't want to take responsibility too. Her mother was a believer who took her own life. Her child was placed in the hands of an exemplary devout priest who looked... passing stranger. The child was entrusted to the house of God without a single piece of luggage. However, she did have one belonging. Karen. Her mother had left her nothing but a name. The priest did not give her his family name, instead leaving it the same as the mother who committed suicide. That name was Hortensia. It's the name of a certain flower that blooms on rainy days. Is that how you pronounce it? I don't know. I don't think I've heard of that flower before. Hortensia? The girl lived with the priest for about 8 years. The priest was filled with love towards the Lord, but shared no love for the child he had taken in. He was provided funds for her upbringing, yet made her work as a servant of the church instead of sending her to school. Ooh, just by being born, the girl had sinned. She was not baptized at the time of her birth, and until baptized to welcome her into childhood, she would be given nothing of the Lord's love. Okay, how about if that's really so important to you, why don't you just baptize her? The priest declared that until then, the human known as Karen could not be recognized as a child of God. However, it was questionable if this unusually strict priest would be generous enough to baptize an orphan at all. Why? Why is that such a problem? There are 2 reasons why the priest did not grant her a proper education: in order to reduce the unnecessary expenses and to prevent her from gaining knowledge. Knowledge must not be given to the child of a beast. Oh my fucking goodness. That is the first step toward wickedness, and more than anything else, it would be inconvenient in various ways if she gained the capacity to think for herself. So it's just treating her as like a slave who's doing as she was told. After all, defiance and exclaiming harmful truth to the masses would affect the dignity of the house of God. To pray was all the priest permitted her to do. He instructed her to give herself to God. This continued for 8 years. Maybe she became used to suffering, or maybe her emotions were broken from birth like her father's. The girl didn't think of her life as difficult. She learned of the Lord and man by watching this priest. She perfected her innocent prayers over those 8 years. And then came the year when the girl was age to receive baptism. Is that a thing? Stigmata appeared on her body and the priest accepted his defeat. I don't know that. He could no longer control her. He opened the gates of the church that imprisoned her and handed her over to a much larger world. The fortress-like structure of the monastery was built deep in the forest. She got connections to the outside world and earnestly continued abiding by the teaching of the Lord in a larger prison. It was a separate world. For the men who lived there, it embodied the very virtues of poverty, purity, and meanness that they strode for. The monastery was a self-sufficient community consisting of devout followers, and all necessities for a living were made within the monastery. Followers made their own food and clothing, and as a modest pleasure, a small amount of wine and cheese. Wine and cheese is your best pleasure outlet, my. Detailed rules for each monastery are different, but the principles are the same. There's only labor for living and prayer for the Lord. Inside the high walls, there is a world of peace and harmony. To achieve a union with God, they renounced the ways of the world and formed a close society of the chosen faithful. This is starting to feel like a cult. Naturally, that lifestyle requires more discipline than at a local church in every aspect. Are you just saying in general monasteries are like this? I mean, it's just how that's phrased, though. I'm very unfamiliar with a lot of aspects of this. The girl was accepted by the Cistercian order. Among the monasteries, that place had a particularly long history and strict discipline where the love of the Lord rivaled even the worth of a person's life. To eat, to work, to worship, to choose. Even those universal rights were not extended to those not loved by the Lord. By that standard, the girl did not even have basic human rights. No, her very existence was unforgivable. It was unthinkable that the venerable Cistercian order would take an orphan child into its ranks. Is it just the orphan part? My goodness. The girl was accepted into the monastery solely because of the stigmata that dwelled within her body. Stigmata. Is that some fate thing? That feels like a fate thing. To spontaneously be wounded, to bleed, and to be healed. Oh, is it the thing that we were talking about before with her resonating with demonic aspects? Knowledge of this ordeal is passed down by the faithful. From the perspective of those believers who live on the other side, it was clear that the girl possessed an unusual power. When it was recognized that she was an advanced spirit medium, that she could sense nearby drifting spirit matter, act as an intermediary, and materialize it into the world through her own flesh, the girl's value skyrocketed. That unusual ability is not something that can be cultivated with training. An ability held from birth, it is a genetic predisposition, unrelated to the will of the individual. Such a rarity, having a high value, is only natural. Can Hortensia's rare talent will achieve unprecedented results in a particular ritual. In light of this report, the Holy Church entrusted the young girl to the Cistercian monastery. But then again, no matter how valuable she became, the Church never bestowed the Lord's love to her. Was she not baptized then? Given room and education, trained as an instrument of the Lord. She sought to conduct herself as a perfect believer so that she would not bring shame upon the Church's name whenever she went outside. As a general rule, a person who entered the monastery could not live outside of it. They may move on to other monasteries, but being outside of a monastery altogether was not permitted. However, she was not invited to be a Cistercian nun, an agent. She was delivered only as an armament of the Church for assistance in demon exorcisms. A weapon is intended to be guided by the hands of man. She was permitted to leave the monastery only when her unusual talents were required to make known the Lord's might. The might of the Lord is not meant to be turned towards humanity. It should be directed toward the wild ones who do not fear the Lord, the demons that threaten humanity. To manifest evil, a demon has to take over a human's body. To cleanse this person and reveal God's love to humanity was a task given to the woman, no, to the agent using the woman. She was employed by an exorcist, a special priest, one allowed to act as a representative from the bishops of the diocese. They answer calls for aid, visiting towns possessed of the possessed to exorcise demons. Closer to fighting than praying, her master frequently said that himself, that the work was like washing the bottom of hell's cauldron. Exorcisms vary in severity, and the ones her master faced were the particularly intense ones. They did not concern themselves with imposters who blamed their own mental breakdowns on demons or with the monster outbreaks. Their opponents were only those who had completely turned into demons. So this is like the other side, because I vaguely remember Bizet mentioning that the priest was not part of that. He was hunting down magus rather than doing anything with demons and whatnot, and that he had a specialty. The tragedy caused by a true demon isn't something that can be endured by the human mind. All towns visited by the exorcists had deviated from the world of humans. The damage inflicted by a demon isn't limited to possession, but also spreads to the people around them. More than the possessed person, the spirits, rather their bodies, are twisted into deformed monstrosities. As our master would say, it wasn't far from a tour of hell. In an exorcism, the weak point that most easily succumbs to death is none other than one human's reason. The body's ability to survive is not that important. In the first place, the extent of the human's power cannot compete with the likes of the one who is turned into a demon. The physical body is protected by a holy relic embodying the miracle of the Lord. However, the spirit must be defended by one's own will. What is required in exorcism is an ironclad faith. In that respect, too, the woman was sued for exorcism. It's probably for the best that her emotions shifted so little. It is said that an exorcism of a true demon is something that cannot be endured twice, but she continued to perform them indifferently. The woman was valued highly. She had the life of a nun, the role of an agent in the church. The workload assigned to her was nothing short of backbreaking. Probably would have overcome any normal person within a month's time. Although, as far as she was concerned, it's not that much different from the daily work she used to do. For her, who couldn't really understand things like fun, torture, had become indivisible from work. Pray and work. Ora et labora. It's ironic. Those words which symbolize the monastery had come to symbolize her own life as well. And is that everything? What brought you out of that life then?
要するに、教会から修道院にたらい回しにされて、そこで天職を得たってこと？
Hard to call it a true calling when it's the only, the second aspect of life you've ever learned.
もう。ええ、そういうことで間違いはありません。
Karen seemed to pout a little as she nods. Whoops. Was she offended that I summed it all up a bit too much?
なんだ。勘に触った？
はい、驚きました。初めからそう説明すればよかった。今のまとめ方ですが、次から使わせてもらっていいですか？
What if I said no? Her admiration and proposal are both sincere. Whatever. I honestly don't get this girl at all.
いいよ。元からあんたの著作権だ。使いたいならじゃんじゃん使ってくれ。
感謝します。今の簡潔さはどれをとっても真実です。
She is smiling, so I'm not sure how to react seeing her act that pleased right after telling me such a depressing story. Somehow I just felt that way. This woman is actually pleased with having that kind of life up until now.
それはいいけどさ、そこまで話したなら最後まで聞かせろよ。悪魔払いであんた何するの？
Well, no, it's not fine. It's not, but I want to clarify this part first.
何もしませんが、私には悪魔を払う言葉も秘跡も与えられていません。
は？付き添って歩くだけって。
What the hell? Is this guy she's calling Master a coward? Don't tell me he was just afraid to go to towns where the possessed were by himself.
何に憤っているかは聞きませんが、その短絡は間違いです。エクソシストになる者は悪魔を恐れません。
Oh, I'm sure that's what they tell themselves.
恐れるのは心が折れることだけです。
へえ、ご立派で結構だけど、それなら一人で払ってればいいだろう。あんたが付き合う必要はないんじゃないのか？だいたいなんだ、飛脚霊媒体質だっけ？あんた悪魔の近くにいると憑依者と同じ霊障を生んだろ？
True, I was giving that some thought during the story. It seems like her ability would be better for less severe cases, where the symptoms aren't very obvious. A way to detect it before things would really start, getting off the rails. But it sounds like her missions were largely related to ones where they were off the rails, basically, already. And it's like, well, what use is your ability here?
なら助手っていうより邪魔者だ。火事場にガソリンかぶって飛び込んでるようなもんじゃないか。
それが私の役割です。 霊障を受けること。それが魔を識別する最短の方法ですから。
Sure. But it didn't sound like you were mainly on missions that would have been useful. Maybe I'm misinterpreting.
悪魔は人の目に見えず、取り憑かれたものは変貌するまでわからない。いえ、神聖な悪魔は巧妙に憑依者が悪魔つきであることを隠蔽する。育ちきるまで外敵を呼ばないよう極力霊障を抑えるのです。
Okay. And once they get revealed, they go on what, a rampage or something? I mean, I'm just going back to the whole, like, the impression that I got from the story was that the places you went typically were like villages that had like multiple people basically in demon form that had to be fought through.
残念ながら育ちきった悪魔を払う術は教会にはありません。エクソシストにできることは彼らが育ちきる前に発見し、これ悪魔となったものは焼却するしかない。それを可能とするのは異端審問に特化した代行者だけでしょう。
ああ、そういう用途なわけ。
I did not see what that changed too clearly. A sudden emotion destabilizes me. I feel just a bit disgusted. Demons can't be seen by humans. Only the host knows he is possessed. The first and most difficult step in an exorcism is finding a demon that conceals its true identity. I mean, okay. So, but I had a thought like, well, is that supposed to mean something that Emiya can see them? But no, Saber saw them, Archer saw them, Bizette saw them. She saw them too, so hers is a bit different though. Still. This is where she is useful. She is an idiosyncrasy that responds lustfully to the surrounding demons and evil spirits and causes the effects of the possession on its own. From the Church's perspective, it's an extraordinary heresy. Although it would normally be a useless genetic trait that would be harmful to even let exist, there is one specific purpose for which its radical effectiveness is demonstrated. In short, the girl is a living detector that sheds blood to inform others of demons. It makes a tearing noise. It breaks her arms, crushes her legs, rips her womb from the inside. Even if the form returns, the function does not. Aside from those dull golden eyes, was lost long ago. This bell-like voice may not have, this bell-like voice may not even resound in reality. These are her true colors. She is a messenger of God who saves others by mutilating herself until death.
なるほど。それで。
So that does mean you can come back from that sort of, transformation, symptom, resonance. Her true calling was well said.
そりゃ、マグダラの生涯譜にも選ばれるわ。
It takes some kind of reason to endure such unreasonable pain. She gives unimaginable pain to herself. Even if she doesn't want it, injuring herself is still a masochistic act. You cannot injure yourself out of hatred. Her deeds are not something that can be done without love or faith.
一応聞いておくけど、それって拒否権はあるのか？ねえよな。あったら断ってる。
それも間違いです。教会は厳格ではありますが、非道ではありません。悪魔払いの役職には拒否権があります。
なら、なんで悪魔払いなんか手伝うんだよ、あんた。
そちらの方が意味がありますから。それに、私には外も内も変わりはありません。
Going outside to perform exorcism and being inside the monastery are no different. Ah, so that's it. She has two ways of life she knows, and neither are particularly appealing. I thought before that she was riddled with bandages and reeked of disinfectant, but it's no wonder. A demon stings at the very heart of a human. No matter where she goes, she can't avoid getting hurt. Oh, okay. In regards to that, it's no different. Okay.
まるでゴミ箱だ。 悪魔払いを手伝う理由になってないよ。そんな、あんた愚痴の一つもないの？
自分が人に比べてハンデを負っていることは理解していますが、それも生まれついてのことです。恨んだところで始まりません。このように生まれついたのなら、その定めに従うだけです。
なんだそれ。治そうとか考えないのか？病気みたいなものなら体質改善とかしろよ。
治療法は発見されていませんし、治したいという希望もありません。自分は不幸なのだと嘆けるだけで十分です。それに私は確かに傷を負いますが、それは私の傷ではなく誰かのものです。哀れみこそすれ、恨む。
Holy shit. The hell is she talking about?
そのままでいいってこと？
はい、このように生を受けたのですから、その定めに従うだけです。
It certainly feels contrived for the sake of living with it. She said she'll take everything as it is. I can't speak for how someone else might take it. But this kind of thing doesn't sit well with, quote, me, end quote.
あんたさ、何がしたくて生きてるんだ？
人生に意味が必要なのですか？
いや、そんなものは意識しなくていいけど。
It's certainly in contrast to someone who bears the title Avenger at the very least.
あんたはさ、何もしないために生きてるみたいだ。そういうの、頭くるんだよね。
Someone had complained about something like this sometime or other. It was... I don't like when people aren't rewarded for their hard work. What were those words said? I wouldn't call it saintly. After all, those imposters known as saints don't try to award results because it doesn't fit the equality they preach. They never speak of being rewarded in the end. That's why these are nothing but thoughtless words. It's not even hypocrisy, but a questionable, naive wish.
また空気が変わりましたね。先ほどは苛立ちでしたが、今は明らかに怒っている。
Yeah, I'm an angry man. Apparently, she can read my expression even with her eyes closed. But unfortunately, that's not quite right. It's not that I get angry just now, but that I'm always in a bad mood when I'm here.
まあいいや、あんたにもポリシーがあるだろうし、いちいち口を出すことでもなかった。気に食わないが思うようにやってくれ。
そう、あなたは我慢できない人なのですね。
She pushes back with a blunt tone. Is it her turn to be angry now, or did she just return to her usual self? She looks at me with conceited eyes appropriate for this church.
何？
別に。あなたとよく似た人を知っているから比べてみただけです。もっとも、その人は我慢できる人ですが。
Oh?
何の接点もない人間だけど、面白い共通点があるものですね。
You didn't happen to know the priest beforehand, would you? She grins broadly. That is the most confident look on her face I've ever seen. I don't think it's appropriate for a substitute priest to flaunt her malicious intent.
何言ってるかわからないけど、あんたの知ってるやつと共通点なんかないだろ。
知らぬは本人ばかりなりね。エミヤ四郎は自身の欲望を殺し、世の不条理を許せない善人。対して彼は自身の欲望を許し、世の不公平を黙殺する悪人。
Oh, you're trying to make that. Okay. You're trying to compare him to how he's currently acting with. Okay.
正反対の位置づけなのに共通項が多すぎる。まるで合わせ鏡の悪魔のよう。
An unpleasant smile appears on her face. I figured out something. Honestly, they're being really blunt with it now. Karen has even less individuality than I do, but she gets excited at the idea of rubbing someone's weak spot the moment she discovers it. The troubling part is how effective her nose is for this stuff. The woman uses her unmatched senses to sniff out the scars of others.
その正反対のやつってなんだよ。
昔話に出てくる人物です。あるところに国中の罪を受け持って死ぬまで罰を与えられた罪人がいました。彼は至って善良な青年でしたが、何の意図もなく罪人に選ばれた。人の意志による行為ですが、そこに人間の意図はなかったのですから。
天の意志ね。そんなものに振り回されて牢獄行きか。さぞ世の中を恨んだろうな。
いいえ、恨んだのは初めの数年だけ。彼は最後に人々を許しました。
Before death or after?
長く転変する世界を見て、きっと全てを許したのです。
憎しみは長く続かないってやつか。それはほら、なんだ。加害者側のさ、都合のいい願望だろ
う。でしょうね。彼に根付いた憎悪は、もはや永劫と言えるものです。私たちが呼吸をするように、彼は常に人を憎む。そういう存在になっている。その憎悪はもはや生態であって感情ではない。そのあり方で彼は全てを肯定した。世界は憎むに値する。人間は千差万別。何が起ころうともそれは不条理ではない。不条理には憎しみをもって相殺するから好きにしろと。大抵の出来事、大勢の人間の欲望をそれもよしと。
そりゃすごい。善人じゃなくて聖人じゃないか、それ。
Yes and no. It depends what you do about it, doesn't it?
いいえ、全てを肯定するということは時に最大の悪性となる。
It just becomes an excuse.
わかりませんか。全てを許すということは、強者は強く弱者は弱いと。加えて彼は個人の欲望を賛美する。本人がいいと思うことをしろと。善悪の観念はなく、ただそうであれと肯定している。
What a troublesome person, Karen adds. That certainly is troublesome. A mindset like that would end up endorsing crime.
まずくないか、そいつ。あんた神様の代行なんだから今のうちにしょっぴいとけよ。ほら、あの赤い布とか使ってさ。取り物は得意だったろ。
ご安心を。捕まえるには及びません。確かに恐ろしい存在ですが、放っておいても構わないでしょう。
Mind you, the fact that Emiya's like, go capture him in the story he was just told is an old tale from long, long ago, where he's literally watched the world change over time.
基本的に彼は無能で無害ですから。
何その言い分。ずいぶんひどくない？
真実を言ったまでです。何しろひたすら受動的で面倒くさがり屋な性格ですから、率先して悪を行うことはありません。
ならいいけど。で、そいつと俺のどこが似てるんだ？
わからないのですか？本当に世界を愛しながら憎むか、憎しみながら愛するかだけの話なのに。
That's fair. The idea of justice does innately carry that contradiction, doesn't it? That ideal. Because if there was... That's the thing. That's the neat... Okay, so I suppose that's ultimately the core contradiction of Emiya's justice ideal, yeah? That in order for the world to need The ideal of a hero of justice, it would require the world to not work in a way that such an ideal could really truly exist. If the world worked in a way that you could actually create a pure hero of justice in true earnest form, then there wouldn't be the evils to actually, need a hero of justice for, right? I think that's the whole point, yeah? The idea of loving despite hating it and hating despite loving it is very similar, I guess.
こんなにも決定的に違っていながら、ただ順序が逆なだけのあなたたちが
I'm asking because I don't understand, or so I was about to say, but it seemed like a waste of time. I think I'm to talk about this sort of thing to begin with. I just came here on a whim and listened to her talk as she pleased. I have no obligation to rack my brains over some uncomfortable doubt like this.
質問。なんでこんな話になったんだ？
It's obvious now that Karen's switch had been flipped. This contrived shift in behavior is something I've seen all from Tohsaka Rin.
驚いたわ。それもわからないの？あなた本当に高顔なのね。
他人の喜怒哀楽に疎いというのであれば同感だけど。で、人を苛立たせた理由は何だよ？
呆れた。いいわ。そっちなら答えてあげる。今のは私を勝手に測ったお返しよ。
Examining? The summation, or? I haven't even tried imaging what's underneath that unfashionable robe of hers, but... Oh, is that what you were talking? What? It's like you're living to do nothing. Well, I might have offended her by saying something that was a bit too on the nose. In any case, I think staying here any longer would be even more uncomfortable.
帰る。そんなに話がしたけりゃ公園で適当なやつを捕まえろ。
A simple matter of going whoosh with that red cloth of hers.
ですから、私はあまり外には出られません。
Why? Is it some rule imposed upon you by the church?
あなたは暇ではないのですか？
あんたに会うまでは暇だったけど、今は遊んでる暇はない。とりあえず目標をくれたからな、あんたは。
Which I'm doing nothing to achieve. Ah, Karen responds in comprehension. That's right, I figured out my path from here on. I socialize with her because she's a valuable source of information, but I should hurry back if there are no more leads.
じゃあな、もし次があるなら、その時は少しぐらい役に立ってくれ。
約束しましょう。次にあなたが来た時、迷っているのなら道を示すと。その代わりにもう一度聞かせてください。あなたは何のためにこの異常を解決したがるのです？
そりゃあお前。
Then why is it exactly? Why am I obsessed with the resolution of this anomaly? Well, I mean, if you're Emiya Shiro, the obvious answer would be, well, shit, I'm stuck in a time loop. Sure, it's fun, but it can't last forever. You need to get on with your life eventually. Everyone does. You can't just hold the entire world hostage for the sake of some extra peaceful days. Not indefinitely. Even though after the fourth day, it'll be as though nothing ever happened anyways.
いや、それは。
愚問でしたね。我慢できない人と言ったのは私です。エミやシローにとって困っている人に手を差し伸べるのは当たり前のことでした。
With a poof, all doubt vanished. Now that you mention it, that's right. Because it was something I didn't need to think twice about. Probably wasn't even a reason at all. Can't believe it. But those are the kinds of thoughts that fill this head of mine. I stand up to leave. She looks at me as though she still has something to say.
そんなにこの場所が嫌いですか？それともここより街での生活の方が刺激的ですか？
半分当たりで、ここは嫌いだけど、街をぶらつくよりは、まあ新鮮味があって悪くない。
They say you'll get tired of even a feast if you don't try different foods every now and then. It's simply enough to have my everyday normal life go back to. Things like excitement and passion can come later, when I've forgotten about them.
じゃあな。そんなわけなんで、ここもあんたも気に食わないけど、気が向いたらまた邪魔するよ。
I start walking towards my daily life.
あなたの毎日は楽しいですか？
どうだろう。とりわけ感謝しなくちゃいけないほど強烈に楽しいってわけじゃないが。
I have to confess, rather than calling it fun, it's all so dazzling sometimes. It's a little painful. Interesting. He does talk a lot like Emmy as a different person in how he refers to stuff in the narration, so I leave the foul church behind. With the organ's venom fading, I can finally think straight again. Karen said it's only natural for Emmy Shiro to save someone.
あれ?
But still, just who am I trying to save? I would assume Angriminio. Out of all the potential options, it seems most likely. Oh, is this new? It might be new. Sure, let's do this. Prologue. A little I can say. Okay. Sure, let's do the other option from like ages ago. I quickly set the tray down while in retreat mode. I'm not sure what this will lead to, if anything different.
はい。それと、お茶をありがとうございます。チョコレートトリュフとは奮発しましたね。
So what had happened up to this point?
ああ、藤姉がご機嫌斜めだったから、お詫びの印って。
Hear footsteps approaching, and they aren't just passing by. They stop in front of the room.
セイバーさん。
Crap, this isn't gonna be funny.
セイバー、こちらの荷物にあなたの買い物が混ざっていたの
I
です
feel like this Fujine showed up in the other one. Furthermore, if Ryder's around, then we're way past just not being funny. It'd be outright frightening. Our eyes meet for a brief moment. There's no time for words to avoid trouble. We have but a single choice. I hide inside the closet. Not much of a hiding spot, but there's no other place that could possibly conceal a grown man around here.
お邪魔します、セイバーさん。
It's only natural that she'd act at a loss for words, especially when being greeted in the nude. Looks like it's taking a while for Penny Saber is like a museum exhibit that Sakura's observing from different angles. Oh my goodness. I shouldn't have done this. I'm not taking a chance on that being on YouTube, but she really should hurry up and put something on. Please do. Even Ryder seems to be having a hard time.
ああ、私としたことがルールを忘れるとは。これはお手数をおかけします、さくら。どうぞ。でも、どうしてそんなに痩せてるんですか？
Oh, that's it. No, stop!
だって毎日あんなにおかわりして10時と3時のおやつも欠かさないのにずるいです。
I've got a feeling that she just asked something that she shouldn't have.
そういうさくらも結構な健胆家ではないですか。たくさん食べられるのが羨ましいんじゃなくて、それは私だってご飯は美味しいからそこそこ食べますけど、その度にいつもダイエットしなきゃいけないなって気に病んでるのに。さくら、僭越ながら私からの忠告ですが、秘訣があるんですね。ご飯はくよくよせず楽しく食した方がより美味しく召し上がれますよ。
That is fair.
だから食べちゃダメなんです。
She just gonna keep being naked? However, Sakura doesn't look like she's gaining any weight. The girls sure are complicated.
ほら、二の腕にたるみもないし、お腹もキュッと引き締まってて、肋骨もうっすら浮き出るほどで、 もしかしてセイバーさんって秘伝の英国流ダイエット法をマスターしてたりするんですか？
Actually,
隠れて毎日欠かさず有酸素運動をしているとか。
she has really good instincts, but she still needs to be sure. Her ribs are poking out a little bit. That's like really.
あなたが言うのは反則である気がしますが。
いえ、さくら。単に私は太らないだけです。
Sakura becomes a heroic spirit for the sole sake of being able to eat as much as she wants without gaining weight. A straight answer, like a powerful fastball. But isn't she in her normal body? Why would she be incapable of gaining weight? And like a batter that's struck out, Sakura's frozen stiff.
私の身体の発育は剪定の剣を岩から抜いた時に停止したのです。
Even weights? Okay, no, I mean, I remember that. I didn't think of it here, but...
故にいくら奢侈な食を極めても太りもせず、一辺のパンすら食さずとも痩せはしません。ええ、かつて先陣を往来した自分には王らしい威厳と滑腹は得られずとも戦には便利であると感じました。ですが今となれば女性らしい成熟した豊かさを得ることもできず、さくら？聞いてますか？さく
Cyrus literally just over there banging her head on the table. Oh, I see. So that's what it was. I mean, really, even I thought it was kind of strange.
ライダー、さくらはどうしたのですか？
あなたは言葉の威力をもっと理解すべきです、セイバー。
おかしいですね。そもそもサーバントが現世の法則にとらわれがたい存在であることはマスターなら100も承知のはずです。驚くようなことは何も。
The banging of the head on the table in the background, my goodness.
強くなるのです、さくら。こんな無神経なサーバントに負けないくらいに。体型へのコンプレックスは私も無縁ではありません。
ライダー、
今夜からダイエットを始めましょう。私も手伝います。毎晩風呂上がりに体重グラフをつけたりカロリー計算をしたり。
Can you gain weight?
ライダー、
大丈夫。私はずっとあなたの味方です、さくら。
ライダーも体つきは全然変わらないわね。
Nothing escapes a girl's eye, eh, Sakura?
ライダー、まさか。
はい。今まで黙ってましたが。
あなたも嘘よね。
サーバントなのでいくら食べても私はこれ以上背が伸びません。
Taller, sure, yeah, that's it. Wait, were they talking about height?
さくらはなぜ石化しているのですか？ライダーの魔眼は何も。
気にしないように。最近さくらはショックに陥ると逃避のために石化するので
Is
す。
she actually stone?
ほほう、体質がサーバントに同調。
I see. I don't know how much of that was meant seriously, but from now on I'll have to be careful to avoid causing her to petrify.
そうですか。悪気はなかったのですが。
Nope, just told her the cruel truth, that's all.
それではおいとまいたします。
ではお大事に。さくらが大変なことになっておりますが。
いえ、いつものことです。いつものこと。
It does sort of sound like stone being pulled across the road. Have they left? I can come out now? Yeah, and we're back where we started. As if... Fuck!
微笑ましいほど仲が良いですね、あの二人は。
Put on some clothes now!
それはともかく何か着て。そうだ、甲冑。
なるほど、道理です。
Finally, Saber's appearance has settled down. Does that armor come with, like, underwear or just, like, underclothing in general? I guess... It does? I don't know. Whatever. Rather, it's me who can take a breath now. Well, my mind has relaxed somewhat. I voiced a random thought that just occurred to me.
そういえば、さっきの水着の話だけど。
はい。
ここで見せるより、もっと。
Yeah, okay, we've done this part. Right up here, scratching my cheek, I force it out.
いや、なんだ。
Then Saber, after taking a quick breath.
はい。
Okay, yeah, this is basically the same as it was before. Okay. Fantastic. Oh, okay. Something different's happening. I gaze at the pleasant blue sky, taking a break after a meal to enjoy some tea out on the veranda is particularly special reward. It is the very ordinary nature of that makes such everyday happiness the best.
それで調べてみたら該当するサーバントとマスターがいたわ。聖杯戦争が開始してから4日目で脱落したのはアインツベルンの。
Are we doing the research on the 4-day thing with her?
そこボケっとしない。せっかく調べてきてあげたんだからちゃんと報告を聞きなさい。
Listening to what?
いや、あれ、Tohsaka.
I am momentarily confused. I look down to find Tohsaka sitting beside me.
Tohsakaじゃないわよ。まさかあんた今の話全部聞き流したって言うんじゃないでしょうね。
I think I didn't even realize you're there. A sarcasm-free, direct to the point question that is very uncharacteristic of Tohsaka. The Tohsaka air is infuriated to the point of forgetting her own family's always elegant motto.
すまん、聞いてなかった。そもそも、なんでここにTohsakaがいるんだ?
I'm worried that she might have just teleported here or something. I truly didn't have any memory of Tohsaka coming out here and sitting down next to me.
何？もしかして私が帰ってきたことも分かってないの？
Home? I thought it was morning.
バカ言うな。そこまでボケてないぞ。多分Tohsakaが隣に座って羽を伸ばし始めたのに気づかなくて、話しかけられてもこれまた気づかなかっただけだ。
I don't think you're giving yourself much more credit than she did.
それ十分ボケてるけど仕方ないわね。変な夢っていうかエミヤくんはまだ4日間に苛まれてるんでしょ。疲れてるってことで見逃してあげるわ。
ああ、重ねてすまん。自分でも今のはちょっと怖い。それと、なんだ、別に寝ぼけてるわけじゃないからそう覗き込まないでくれ。
そうよね。ちょい近すぎた。
Tohsaka leaps to her feet. Till a moment ago, she was incredibly close to simply pushing me down.
じゃあもう一回だけ説明するわね。あなたの言う4日間が何なのかってことだけど、それが何者かが聖杯にかけた願いだって仮定を採用するとする。この何者かが何なのかを知る手がかりはやっぱり4日間の縛りだと思うのよ。はじめ聖杯にも限界があって4日間しか再現できないものかとも思ったんだけど、それなら1日を永遠に繰り返せばいいわけでしょ。
だよな。聖杯は持ち主、召喚者の願いを叶えるだけのものだ。そこに自分の魔力をセーブしようなんて考えはない。
そうだから4日間でセーブしている理由は他にある。聖杯の契約者は 何らかの理由で4日間しか聖杯戦争を再現できないのよ。で、ここで重要なのは開始でも再開でもない再現ってことね。エミヤくん、この意味わかる？
そりゃなんとなく。そいつは一度聖杯戦争を体験していて、そいつを再現してるってことだよな。
よくできました。そこにさえ気づけばあとは自明の理よ。4日間しか再現できないのは聖杯の力が足りないからじゃない。そいつは4日間しか聖杯戦争を体験できなかった。
Okay. So the Bazette stuff is completely independent? I mean, what it makes it seem like is it seems like in one of the possibilities of the previous war, Ilya's group messed up and he was summoned instead of Berserker, and the 4 days happened, that's what they were saying before. And this whole thing is a reproduction, but it's like with a different master or something like that.
4日目で脱落したからそいつにとってその先の聖杯戦争は再現できないのよ。
Right, but I mean, a lot of these like events don't feel like they're like matching up with all that, right?
そいつってのは4日目で脱落したマスターってことか。
The days seem like they're going about very differently. Alternatively, it could be a result. I mean, the fact that he has the Holy Grail's wish, right, would imply that he won at some point too, so it could just be that the Holy Grail war that he won was 4 days long.
けどそんなやついなかったぞ。
私たちの聖杯戦争にはね。で、以前の聖杯戦争の記録を調べてみたらちょうど4日目で退場したマスターがいて。
以前の聖杯戦争なんて関係ないだろう。再現してるのは俺たちの聖杯戦争なんだから。
Because that's the thing. Even if we had all that stuff where it's like, oh, it's just repeating what happened before, even like in a previous war, the events of the nights were still changing significantly, right? Between getting farther in the whole process of defeating people or other stuff like that. But that was not a part of it, obviously, too, so.
そう思うでしょ？けどちょっと違うのよ。あくまで例え話なんだけど、あなたの言う4日間は白紙の脚本で、私たちは役者なんだと思う。
I mean, that makes the 4 days still arbitrary. Why would we be limited by 4 days if the actual events inside them don't matter?
この脚本は白紙だから役者たちは好き勝手アドリブできるんだけど、たとえ白紙でも4日間という上演時間だけは決まってるから。
What now? Tohsaka jumps backwards.
遠坂？
結界が反応しかけてる。シロ、一緒に来て。外に良くないお客さんよ。
Oh, okay.
本当だ。小さいけど警報が鳴ってる。鳴る前によく気づいたな、遠坂。
She's likely set up a similar barrier around herself as well. Ever since leaving for London, Tohsaka's power has been steadily rising. What an ominous prospect. Okay, that's probably a good place to end this. I was looking for a place to end it, and this seems like a nice cliffhanger for that, so... Okay, well... okay. Interesting. I mean... I guess we're just getting to the point of working out the mechanics of it. Seems fairly obvious what happened to an extent, but, you know. So, yeah. Okay, I'll leave it there, and I'll talk to y'all next time. Drive safely, everyone.